If this is your first time being here today, or you've been here maybe the last couple Sundays and newer to our family here, we're gonna have a unique talk today. We are starting a brand new series or collection of talks called Built to Last. Built to Last. And this is gonna take us the whole month of November to unpack and talk about. And if you, like I said, if you're newer today, this is gonna be a family talk. So if you're new today, this might be different for you. It's be a different Sunday. I'm gonna preach way different, teach way different today on some things that are going on in our church in the future. So you kind of joined a very large Thanksgiving meal with your neighbors. And you're like, oh, they're gonna have a little family talk about some sibling stuff and about things going on. I'm just gonna sit here and watch and look at their family. So that's kind of what you're gonna do today. We're gonna have a large family unhealthy discussion today. Actually be very healthy, I'm just kidding. But in our large family, we're gonna have a conversation about our future, about our plan. And if you have your Bible, go with me to the book of Haggai. Yes, that's a book in the Bible. It's like Haggai, it's in the Old Testament. Book of Haggai, it's right next to all those weird books, Zephaniah, Zechariah, Haggai, it's past Jonah, past all that, way to the right, almost to the New Testament. If you get to Malachi, too far, go to the left. I'm on page 1005. If you have the right book, 1005. Just kidding, we're gonna read today out of the book of Haggai. We're not gonna be there yet, so just wait for me for a second. We're gonna read there in a little bit. Give me some time to kind of lay the foundation for our talk today. But once again, for those of you that are newer to this family, we just started 6.5 years ago at the church. And that includes the 2 years of weird COVID church or online and coming back in the building and slowly growing and all that kind of stuff. And it's been an amazing 6.5 years. In March, last weekend of February, first weekend of March will be our 7-year anniversary. And you can walk into this room and look around and look at the people and look at the busyness of the day. And you can think like, wow, what a big church, an amazing church. Look at what all God's done. But I need you to be reminded today that we started with 21 people. 21 people in a living room, in my mother-in-law's living room in Vancouver, Washington. 21 of us looked at each other and was like, are we doing this? Yeah, let's do it. Went from there to some night meetings. I think we had 44 adults at our first Sunday. And we had like 6 or 7 kids. And so you can walk in today and kind of look around like, unless you've been here for the last 6.5 years, and if you missed the boss and all the stairs and been here since then, and if you missed Thomas the Train Engine at the VMAC, and right? It's like somebody like, what's that? Well, you missed the VMAC. You missed the train. And many of you started following online and started watching during COVID and now came and maybe been in for a month. All of us have different journeys to this building, to right now. But I want to talk about for just a quick moment where we've been, how we've got here. Not the last 6.5 years. We'll be here till next Christmas. But just a few things, at least what's happened the last 12 months. Because God has been very faithful. God has been very good to our church. The last 12 months. And just to read a small list, and we'll talk about even more next week, but here's a small list. And by the way, as I read this, many of us in this room have a tendency to think it's normal. And if you were raised in church as a kid, if you've been in other church settings as an adult, you are very aware that what God has done in this church the last 12 months is anything but normal. Anything but familiar. So I warn you, church, as I read this, to not go, oh yeah, like, let's be aware of what God is doing in a very, very real way. Here's just a list of things in the last 12 months alone. 191 people have been water baptized in the last 12 months. 191 people have been water baptized. Some churches wouldn't have 10 people baptized in a year, let alone almost 200 people have been water baptized in the last 12 months. 550 people have taken essentials in the last 12 months. I think it's pretty amazing. We have over 500 people that serve once a month. We're 500 people that serve once a month. We've had over 500 people take welcome dinner in the last 12 months. We now have over 300 kids in our Rose Kids department, over 300 kids in Rose Kids. You guys have been multiplying. We now have over 60 people in youth. We used to have 5 people in our youth ministry. Now we have 60 people in youth. We want to do a lot more in Isle of My City over the last 12 months. Now, every second Saturday, we go to the harbor and serve there. Now our worship team is going to start going and leading worship once a month. Every second Saturday for the harbor. Every third Saturday, we have NA meetings here down in the ballroom. A whole bunch of people coming to those NA meetings and figuring their life out and rebuilding their life. Every third Thursday, we go to Night Strike underneath the bridge and serve with Night Strike every third Thursday. Every fourth Saturday, we go to Shepherd's Door and serve there. Every single Friday, we serve lunch to a group of homeless people in Inner Southeast through a community partner. Every single Friday, we serve lunch. House of Gifts, we do every December. Coming up, we serve hundreds of kids and hundreds of families and a ton of gifts that we give to families in need for House of Gifts. Project Lemonade, I don't know if you know this, but Oregon is the highest state in America with kids in foster care. And so Project Lemonade, we serve kids in foster care and youth in foster care, and they do it seasonally, so we help them. And then all of our meals, groceries, rent, help in need to our families, our city, a ton of new moms that need help with groceries and child resources and baby resources, all that kind of stuff. So we've done a ton more over the last 12 months in all of our Alabama cities, and that's hundreds of people that are involved in that. That's so many hours that just went into the list that I just read. And in the last 12 months, Rose has grown by 700 families. 700 families in the last 12 months. And all that being said, which is very uncomfortable for me to say these things because it's a lot, but now in the last 12 months, even in the last 3 months, that what God's done in our church, over 3,000 people call Rose Church home. And I know they're not here every Sunday in every room, but over 3,000 people call this family home. And that's a lot that what God has done in the last 12 months. All that being said, I can summarize it in one sentence. God is building his church. God is building his church. God has been faithful. God has been good. Come on, let's not give God a little petty golf clap. Can we actually thank the Lord for what he's doing, what he's done? Come on, in our church and our families. Let us now go to where we're going. Because many people are asking, what's the plan? This room keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and people stand the entire time and sit on the floor in multiple overflow rooms. And the 830 now has overflow rooms. And so I was going to beg you to go to the 830, but there's no room there, and no room at the 1230. And so let's talk about where we're going, because I know many people are asking, what's the plan in our church? What's the plan? What's the next step? And as Proverbs says, without vision, people perish. And so we're going to talk about vision today, where we're going, and give me some time to lay a foundation on what we're going to talk about today. Here we go, Book of Haggai. Are you there? Oh, good, 7 of you. Okay. Some of you are still in there, flipping through. There's no Haggai in this book, man. I've been flipping for 20 minutes now. Ain't no Haggai. It'll be on the screen for you. What we're going to do together, because I want to lay a foundation on what we're going to read. We're going to read all of chapter 1 and 9 verses of chapter 2. And that sounds very long. It's not going to be a long time. I know some of you were raised in church and no, I want to have lunch soon. I don't want to be here forever. Haggai is a very short book, only has 2 chapters. Chapter 1's pretty short. We'll read 9 verses of chapter 2, but just give you a little bit of a context. Haggai was a prophet. If you don't know, prophet only means that God has a person that he would talk to on the behalf of these people, for God, to these people about the future. And Haggai is a prophet. And if you were raised in church, and if you weren't, I'll kind of catch you up a little bit. But in the Old Testament, there was this nation of Israel, God's people. And they disobeyed God multiple times in the Old Testament. The Old Testament is a story about God chasing Israel. Come back, come back, come back. They come back, they leave. They come back, they leave. And one time, God warns them through another prophet. He says, if you guys don't stop disobeying, another nation is going to take you guys over. You're going to be destroyed by another nation if you don't stop disobeying. They keep disobeying, so this nation called Babylon comes over and destroys Israel, which then splits into 2 nations, northern Israel, southern Judah. God allows Babylon to come and take them into captivity. They're in captivity for 75 years. This is not Pharaoh in Egypt. This is long after that. Another captivity, 75 years. So then God allows Assyria to take over Babylon. Assyria destroys the Babylonian Empire, and Assyria looks at all these Jews and all these Israelites and you can go home. Now that we've destroyed Babylon, we don't need you. You can go home. So there's these multiple prophets, Zechariah, Ezra, Haggai, Zephaniah. There's these prophets that are all talking about when all these Israelites, all these Jews are on their way home. So there's these waves of people that are leaving captivity, going back to Jerusalem, and they're rebuilding their life. Haggai is the first prophet out of the list that I just named, before Zephaniah, Zechariah, before Ezra, before Nehemiah. This is right before that literature, that Haggai is prophesying to these people on their way back to Jerusalem after captivity, and they've been home for roughly 30 to 50 years. Okay, then God comes to talk to these people that they've been home now for roughly 50 years. Okay, we got it? Okay. We're going to read it together. I want you to hear some phrases. Haggai chapter 1, verse 1. It says, in the 2nd year of the king Darius' reign, on the 1st day of the 6th month, the word of the Lord came through the prophet Haggai to Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, and governor of Judah. He's the governor. Joshua, son of Zodak, who's the high priest. This is what the Lord Almighty says. These people keep saying, the time has not yet come to rebuild the house of the Lord. Then the word of the Lord came through the prophet Haggai. Is it a time for you and yourselves to be living in paneled houses or luxury houses, while my house remains in ruin? Now this is what the Lord Almighty says. Give careful thought to your ways. You have planted much, but harvested little. You eat, but you never have enough. You drink, but you never have your fill. You put on clothes, but you were never warm. Look at this. You earn wages only to put them in a purse with holes in it. This is what the Lord Almighty says. Give careful thought to your ways. Go up into the mountains and bring down timber and wood and rebuild my house, so that I may take pleasure in it and be honored in it, says the Lord. You expected much, but see, it turned out to be little. What you brought home, I blew away. Why, declares the Lord Almighty? Because of my house, which remains in ruin, while each one of you are busy with your own homes. Therefore, because of you, the heavens have withheld their dew, and the earth its crops. I called for a drought on the fields and the mountains and the grain and the wine and the olive oil and everything else the ground produces, and on the people and livestock, and that all the labor of your hands. Then Zerubbabel and Joshua, son of Zodak, the high priest, and the whole remnant of the people obeyed the voice of the Lord, their God, and the message of the prophet Haggai, because the Lord their God had sent him, and they feared the Lord. We're almost done. Then Haggai, the Lord's messenger, gave another message from the Lord. He says, say this to the people, I am with you, declares the Lord. So the Lord stirred up the spirit of Zerubbabel, the governor of Judah, and the spirit of Joshua, son of Zodak, and the high priest, and the spirit of the whole remnant of the people. They came and began to work on the house of the Lord and the Almighty, their God, and the 24th day on the 6th month. Chapter 2, verse 1. 6 more verses, we're almost done. You're doing so good. The second year of King Darius' reign, on the 21st day of the 7th month, so about a month and a half later, the word of the Lord came again through the prophet Haggai. Speak to Zerubbabel, the governor, and Joshua, Zodak, a son of Zodak, the high priest, and to the remnant of all the people. Ask them, who of you is left who saw this house or this temple in its former glory? The temple he's talking about is the temple of Solomon. So go back into early 1st, 2nd Kings. At the end, when David dies, Solomon takes over, and he builds a temple, and the beautiful temple of Solomon, this is what he's talking about, because that's what the nation of Babylon destroyed, the temple of Solomon. So he's asking, hey, who remembers the former temple? Who remembers the temple of Solomon? And how does this look to you now? Does it not seem like nothing? But now be strong, Zerubbabel. Be strong, Joshua. Be strong, all you people of the land, declares the Lord, and work, for I am with you. What a sentence. Work, for I am with you, declares the Lord Almighty. This is why I've covenanted with you and all those who came out of Egypt. And my spirit remains among you. Do not fear. For this is what the Lord Almighty says. That we're going to end here. This is amazing. In a little while, I will once again shake the heavens. And I will shake the earth and the sea and the dry land. I will shake all of the nations, and what is desired by all nations will come. And I will fill this house with my glory, says the Lord. Look at this. The silver is mine and the gold is mine, declares the Lord Almighty. And the glory of this present house will be greater than the glory of the former house, says the Lord Almighty. And in this place I will grant peace, declares the Lord Almighty. Let's pause here. I want you to see 3 things today from chapter 1, 6, 7 verses into chapter 2 that we're going to unpack together, and then we're going to talk about where we're going. Here we go. I want you to see 3 things together. Number 1 is this. God sees a church, but he needs a people. God sees a church, but he needs a people. Look at how this letter starts. This prophetic word to these people. Chapter 1, verses 2 to 4, it says, and this is what the Lord says. These people keep telling me the time has not yet come to rebuild the house of the Lord. And then the word came. It said, why is it time for you and yourselves to be living in luxury houses or paneled houses while my house remains in ruins? See, what's amazing about this prophetic word, it's unlike Zechariah, Zephaniah, Ezekiel, Isaiah, Jeremiah, all the other prophets, because this prophet, this Haggai prophet is giving these people a word, not about their sin, not about the nation, not about their land, not about wars coming, not about disobedience. His word is literally, I'm a prophet to challenge your priorities. Many authors and many writers call Haggai the prophet of priorities, because the entire prophetic word, the entire challenge in these 2 chapters is simply, your life's out of order. Your priorities are out of order. You are so busy building your own life, your own house, your own world, your own business. You're so busy with your stuff, you've left the house of God dormant. You've left the house of God in ruins, and I'm coming to challenge your spiritual priorities. For God says, look at what these people keep saying, The time's not yet come. It's been 50 years. And they're like, yeah, it's not time. Let me just submit it, our language. Yeah, once the kids are a bit older, we'll be more consistent. No. Once my life gets a bit settled, we'll start giving then. No. Once I get married and figure my life out, I'll be more consistent then. No. Once the business grows and we figure out some debt and finances, then I'll start tithing then. What we keep doing is keep telling the Lord the same thing these people told the Lord. Yeah, it's not time yet. When I graduate college, then I'll give you my time. When I get married and settle down, then I'll give you my time. When I figure my finances out, my business out, I will give you more time. And notice, we only read chapter and a half. If you keep reading it, 5 times in this short little book, 5 times, God says, consider your ways. 5 times, God says, you need to consider your ways because you are so busy building your life, your home, and you've left my house in ruins. Can I ask you, friend, real quick, what are you busy building? What are you busy building? What is getting your time, your money, your resource, your effort, your late nights, your dreams, your early mornings, your late nights, your Saturdays, your Saturday nights, your Sunday nights? What is consuming your life? What are you busy building? Because look at this whole thing. I was praying about this last night. What's so challenging is God apparently is very concerned with people he saves and how they treat their time after. Apparently, God has a qualm with people that he rescues from captivity and they still think they're their own. So God's coming to them saying, for real? I just saved you from captivity. I just saved you from slavery. And you still think your time is yours? You still think your money is yours? You still think your Saturdays are yours? Oh no, he who I save, I now own. And we are now his. And friend, you were not saved just from captivity. You were saved from death, hell, and the grave. You were not just saved from a literal bondage. You were saved from an eternal bondage. And Jesus apparently has a qualm with those who think they can be saved and still do what they want. He says, hey, you're busy with your house. You're busy with your stuff. But notice the message. We read it 4 times in these chapter and a half. He says, say to all of the people. He does not just say, talk to the priests. Talk to the leaders. He says, tell the people. Why? I think it'll be on the screen. I can't remember what I sent. But building a church is not God's priests doing it. It's God's people doing it. See, we think at times, this horse blanket is getting hot. Bad choice today. Like we think we can hear the sermon today, like, oh yeah, I'm glad the leaders are leading. I'm glad the priests are doing their job. Oh no, friends, God's people builds God's church. His people, you and I. Can I submit to you today? I'm gonna be real forthright today. This is why it's a family talk. Are you busy building God's house? I did not ask you, are you busy attending God's house? I know what I'm saying. Are you busy building God's house? I'll further press you. If everybody built like you, will we have a house? If everyone built how you built, will we have a house? Would God have a temple? Would God have a place? Would God have a room? If everybody built like you. I do not ask, how do you attend? I do not ask how you come. I say, are you building God's house? Because look what he says in chapter 1, verse 8. It says, this is what the Lord Almighty says, give careful thoughts to your ways. Look, he says, go up to the mountains. Go up to the mountains, grab the timber, and come down and build. Go up to the mountains and come build. Write this down. Great churches are built, they're not dreamt. Whiteboards don't build churches. Sticky notes don't build churches. Brainstorming meetings don't build churches. Great churches are built. They're not dreamt. Now, let's just address a theological conundrum for a second. God is God. We on the same page? He can do whatever he wants. You know what God could have done? It's like this. I have a 3-year-old, but when he's like 1, all you parents remember this, when they're learning how to walk and they want to go upstairs. Going up a flight of stairs with a 1-year-old takes eternity. And most parents get frustrated and just pick him up. Oh, we're just going up. I'm not waiting this long. I have stuff to do today. God could have done this. It's been 50 years. You guys won't build me a church? I'll build my own. And God could have just said, there it is. All right, you took forever. I built it. I want to meet with you. Let's go. God does not do that. So apparently, God's mission on earth is contingent on obedient people on earth. Apparently, God's mission on earth is contingent if he can find an obedient people on earth. And look what he tells them. He does not say, go pray. He doesn't say, go prophesy. He doesn't say, go write in your journal. He says, go work. For I am with you. Wait, well, I thought if you're with me, I wouldn't have to work. I thought if God's favor was on the business, I wouldn't have to work. I thought if God's favor was on our marriage, we wouldn't have to go to marriage counseling. I thought if God's favor was on my finances, I wouldn't have to order it. Oh, no, friend. You know what he says? I'm with you, so work. Look what he says. Go up to the mountain, grab the wood, and come build my house. God doesn't do it. Why? Because when God sees a church, he needs a people. When God sees something, he needs a church. Now look what God says in chapter 2, verses 3 to 9. We read it. I'm going to read it again for you. I want you to hear it. It says, which one of you remember the former glory? How does it look to you now? Seems like nothing, doesn't it? But be strong, Zerubbabel. Be strong, Joshua. Be strong, people of the land. And work, for I am with you. Jump down to verse 6. Look what he says. And this is what the Almighty says. In a little while, I'm going to shake the heavens again. I will shake the land, the sea, the dry land. I will shake the nations, and what all will be desired will come to this house. I will fill this house with my glory, says the Lord. Look what it says. The silver is mine, the gold is mine. Look at verse 9. For the glory of this present house is going to be greater than the glory of the former house. In other words, God sees a future for a church, but he needs the people to get involved. Could I submit to you today, prophetically, God sees something in this church. God sees something in this city, by the way. And it's not what your news feed says. It's not what CNN says. It's not what Fox News says. It's not what your neighbor says. It's not what your mom says. It's not what your professor says. God has a plan for this city. And if God sees something in this city, God sees a work to be done. He's simply just waiting for a people to say, hey, God, what you see, I want to be involved in. God, if you see something, send me. Because when God sees a church, when God sees a former glory, he still needs a people to build. He still needs the people to involve themselves. Why? Because look what happens when we do it. Number 2, this is all intro, we're going to land somewhere. So if God sees a church, he needs a people. So what do the people start doing? Well, we're going to read it. They start building. And number 2, look at this. When we form, he fills. Look what he says in verse 9. Verse 7. I will shake the nations, and I will fill this house. Now, I'm going to mess with you a little bit. This flies in the face of the notion it's just you and Jesus. He does not say, I will fill their hearts with my glory. He does not say, I will fill their prayer closets with my glory. He doesn't say, I will fill their backyard devotional time with my glory. He says, I will fill my house. Well, couldn't, if God wanted to talk to his people, just do it individually? Yes, but he wants to meet with his people in a building. In a gathering. This is not some random gathering. This is not some random thing we force ourselves to do on the weekend. This is the gathering of the saints. This is the temple that God is building where he pours his glory into it. Look at, because when we form, God fills. Notice what he does not say. He does not say, I will pour my glory out, then it will get you to build. He says, when you build, when you structure, when you form my house, then I will pour my glory. Because God is not stupid. He's not a bad steward. God is not foolish. He waits for something to be formed until he fills. No farmer receives a harvest, then builds a barn. A farmer always builds a barn in prophetic vision of what he thinks he's going to receive. God is a good farmer. God waits until we form, and then he says, oh, you formed, you built, I will now fill, I will now pour my glory into what you filled. And it's almost like this. When we build naturally, God builds supernaturally. When we build naturally, God does his part. That's what it says. You work, I'm with you. Get the timber, I'll fill it. Notice, if you get the timber, I'll get my glory. All right, I wrote a few things down, just like this, real practically. Band, go ahead and practice your songs. I'll pour my presence out, though. See, what we just experienced for 30 minutes, this band could practice for hours, and we could do our part. But if God doesn't fill what we formed, friend, let us go home. You can get donuts at Starbucks. You can get a greeting at a fair. You can get a hug somewhere else. Like what we do here, a good portion of that stuff, you can get anywhere else. But there's one thing that we give. There's one thing that we offer. There's one thing that we submit that no other room is submitting, and it is His glory. It is His presence. That's when you walked in today. That was not a vibe. I know you enjoyed the hugs. I know you loved the Disneyland golf carts. That's all fine. But friend, that ain't changing your life. As good as our band is, and they are phenomenal, every week we are graced with this amazing team. But if God doesn't pour His presence out, they're songs. Yeah, go ahead, practice. I'll pour my presence out though. Yeah, go ahead, get better at systems, but I'll spark a burden in them to serve. Go ahead, get better at connect groups. I'll plant the lonely in families. Go ahead, get better at preaching. I'll pierce their heart with my word though. See, what we do here, we are simply forming. We're creating a space for what? God to fill. Because look what He says. Look at verse 7. Oh, this is good. He says, I will shake the nations. Look at all the I wills. You don't shake nations. He says, I will shake the nations. And look, and what is desired by all nations will come. What's desired by all nations? His glory. Hear me? So if we're not careful, and not here, but we know some churches, don't we? Not us. If we're not careful, we can get so good at church, we don't need God to show up. If we're not careful, we can get so good at our systems and our dates and our times, our in and outs and our kids and our check-in. If we're not careful, we can get so good at forming, we don't miss when He stops filling. And if we're not careful, we can reach our entire city. Hey, come to our forming. Come to our forming. And they get here and it's empty. It's a veneer, hollow version of what we're trying to offer. My prayer is when we offer people to come to church, right? Hey, do you want to come? Do you want to come when we reach our city? When they walk in, what are they walking into? Not our forming. They're walking into the filling of His glory, which apparently is the desire of all nations. Though they don't know it, that's what they desire. Though your neighbor can't say it, that's what he desires. That's what your boss, she can't say it, but that's what she desires. He is the desire of all nations. He is the fulfillment of every heart. He is the longing of every soul. He is what we have. Though the world does not know it yet, can't say it, can't articulate it, they are groping in the darkness every single weekend at another bar, another table, another bed, another needle, another friend, another job, another empty thing. They are searching for something. And yet we have it. It's what His glory, His presence is Him. He's the desired thing of all nations. He says, if I see this church, I need you to build it with me. What kind of God subjects Himself in His vision to mere humans? I have a plan. Could you imagine going to my 3-year-old? Buddy, I have a plan for the day. I have a big plan for the day, but I need you. I don't need that joker. That kid will do what I say. Like how foolish that seems. How much more? The God of the universe is like, man, I want to do something in that city, but I need someone to join me. Just do it. I don't work that way. I'm not a tyrant. I'm a co-heir. I'm not looking for slaves and servants. I'm looking for friends and family. God doesn't just superimpose Himself like that. God's think about it. He's like, I want to do it, but I need some people to go up to the mountain and get some wood and build something for me. What are you going to do when you build it? I'm going to fill it. I'm going to fill it. Number 3. We're almost done with the intro. Are we okay? Overflows, are you good? I believe it prophetically. They're yelling. Number three. Building a church takes faith and resource. Notice how, once again, God doesn't just say, go pray. Go have faith. Go believe I will. He says, go build. Go work. Could you imagine going to God in prayer about your finances? He's like, yeah, go work. Lord? I was waiting for, thou art comforted, young child. He said, go work. I'm with you, though. No, go work. Go put your hand to the plow. Go get some timber and come down and work. I'm with you. See, building a church doesn't just take faith and prayer and worship and all the important things. It takes resource. It takes resource. Timber to them was money. He literally said, go to your bank accounts and bring some money back. Go to your 401k, go to your resource, go home, go dig up the gold in the backyard and bring it. Like go to the mountains. Timber was money. Sheep was money. Goats, cows, that's resource to them. It's bank accounts, that's savings, that's 401k, that's retirements. If a man had 1,000 sheep, that's his retirement right there. He's gonna sell that eventually and live off the land. Like he literally says, hey, go do this and bring resource to the house that we might build a temple. Now let's talk about where we're going, because where we're going is gonna take resource. Like I said, if you're newer today, this is a totally new space for you. Welcome to our family talk about our future. Where we're going is going to take resource. Now, I'm going to talk about for a moment where we're going, because now with the 3,000 people that call Rose homes, which makes me feel very uncomfortable with that amount of people that God has put in our care. And by the way, I will give an account for that. Our team gives an account for that before the Lord. And so that's a lot of souls, that's a lot of people, a lot of marriages, a lot of kids that God has entrusted with us. And our future is going to take resource. And we'll talk about our future for a second. Many people are, of course, this room is illegally filled, and if you have any, fire marshal friends, don't ever invite them to church. They will shut this mug down so quick. By the way, this property used to be 4 homes, and when the neighborhood was built, they all wanted a church they could walk to, so they demolished 4 homes and built this church. And because the neighborhood wanted to be able to walk to church. And so this church was a neighborhood church. It was meant to have a couple hundred people come on Sunday morning, walk to church, and go home. It was not meant for 3,000 people to be driving from Seaside and Bend and flying in from Arizona and Salem and walk like this is God. This was not the reason why this thing was built. And so many people are asking, what's our future? What's our plan? Where are we going? The room, the building, the size, the services. Like we have to be doing something. Once again, Proverbs says, without vision, people perish. And so this is our future. This is our plan. This is our vision, by the way. Start in order, I guess. Number 1, I have zero desire anytime soon in my heart, in my wife's heart, and our staff's heart, zero desire to start campuses. The model that the American church does is when a location gets filled, they start sending people all over the city. Start a campus there, start a campus there, start a campus there, send those 500 people there. And the majority of this room, I know some people come from Hillsborough and that way, some people come from Gresham and that way, but the majority of our church is the I-5 and 205 corridor from Vancouver in the city and like Happy Valley, Lakeo, Westland, like that majority is where the church all comes from. And we could easily send the 1,000 people that live in Vancouver, go to church over there, and the 1,000 people that live in the city, go to church here, and the 1,000 people that live out there, go to church there. Let me get political for a second. Just a second, I'll get off it. I know Tuesday's coming, but I refuse to add to the segregation of people. Because what I mean by that is the world that we live in wants every room to look like you, act like you, talk like you, and they want the church to look just like the world. And every room looks like you, talks like you, acts like you, votes like you, dresses like you, makes money like you. And if we start campuses, we add to the segregation of the diversity of the room. And I refuse to get rid of what happens in this room every single Sunday. The diversity, the love, the care, not diversity of just race, but human beings in this room. It is special. It looks like heaven. If we separate campuses, our rooms stop looking like heaven. So just so you're aware, I have zero desire to start campuses and spread everyone out and let's start looking like everyone else. Are you booing right now? I love it. We're not doing it. We're not. So just so you know, that's not our future. That is not our plan. We are staying together as one family. As big as dysfunctional this gets, we'll figure out. But we are a family together. And when we enter this room becomes heaven. And if we segregate out, we start looking like the city, start looking like America, start looking like your workplace and your school. And I have no interest in that. Number one. Number two, as I said, this building was not made for us. This building was made for a couple hundred person church. And people are asking what the building often, are we selling, are we staying, are we going, what's the plan? A little bit about our building situation. Number two, we owe $2 million left on this building. Just $2 million. Our building's appraised between $6 and $7 million. So we have $4 or $5 million in equity sitting in this building. And back when we bought it, we have a 4% interest rate. And so for us to move somewhere, it's going to go from a 4% interest rate to a 9% interest rate, and from a $2 million note to a $14 million note. And that not only is financially unwise, it's relationally and our situation unwise. And I refuse to make decisions based off uncomfortability and putting us in a different uncomfortable position because we bit off more than we can chew. Now we're stretching the church. We make a bad decision. And so hear me, this is not our home. We are looking elsewhere. We're looking at buildings. It might be the Moda Center. I don't know. Like we're looking at other stuff. We're looking to buy some stuff. But the reality is we're here for now. And what I mean here for now is like the next year or two. So it's not like 2 months from now we're buying a building. Like we are in search, we're in conversations, we're talking to the city, we're filing for stuff, we're touring building. Like we are doing what we can, but on the other half, number one, our city hates the church. Be aware of that. And so they make every law, every tax, every zoning, everything to make churches a living nightmare for us to move. And so it's going to take some time for us to find a building, renovate a building, finance the building, raise money, move, like to sell this building or keep, whatever, right? Like it's going to take more than a couple Sundays. It's going to take a year or two to do that. So therefore, we're here for now. This is our home for now. Lastly, I refuse to not steward something I'm frustrated in. So when we get out of this building, I want to be able to look God in his face, if you will, and say, I did everything we were supposed to do. I cared for that building. We stewarded that building. We love that building. And when we move and when we sell and whatever happens, we can exit in strength, not avoidance of like, man, we really let that building go and we didn't take care of it and now handing it on to another church gave them. Like, I want to make this building in such a way that we bless the next people coming in. And then we are on our way out, right? So, a few things. Number one, we are not starting campuses. We're staying together. I have no desire to do that. Number two, we're here for some time. So therefore, now that we're here for another year or two, we have some stuff to do. I want to talk about three things that we're going to be doing over the next 12 months at our church that we're going to focus on. We'll talk about something here in a moment. Number one is this, what we need to do since we're staying here for some time until we find a new home that can house what God is doing. Number one, we need to strengthen our next-gen ministries. Our next-gen ministries, which I hate that word because our children aren't the next generation, they're the current generation. So I hate that language in the first place, but that just makes it easier. Our two things, our kids ministry. When we first started meeting, we'd have 6 to 12 kids on a Sunday. I think our first Sunday had 22. Now we have over 300. In our kids' department. You guys have been multiplying. You guys have been doing your thing. So everyone's pregnant again. Like it's a thing, which is awesome. I love it. If we don't grow by salvation, we'll grow by multiplication, okay? So we're growing one way or the other. It's awesome. But that's a lot of children. That's a lot of families. We've grown by 700 families in 12 months. That's a lot of marriages. That's a lot of homes. And if you would go back into those kids' rooms, it looks like animals live there. Like there's holes in the wall. The paint is peeling off. Like when we bought the building in November of 2019, those rooms we've not touched them since then. We painted and did the thing. They've been that since that way. It's like the original toys we bought 4 years ago are still back there, or what's left of them is still back there. Like your guys is like, if you have children, your kids' toys don't last a month, let alone 5 years, right? It's like those rooms need a lot of love and care, from paint to toys to checkout systems. Like our family ministries need a great sense of love right now. And now if you're 19, you're like, this doesn't matter to me. It will. Oh, I promise you, like, we're married, we don't have kids, who cares? You will in a few years. For some of you, when we talk about finances in a moment, you're sowing prophetically, not presently. Because like you have a 4-year-old, you don't care about youth ministry, you will in a few years. Like I have an 11-year-old friend. I'm paying a lot of attention to youth right now because he's going in there next year. When he was 6, I was like, yeah, I'll figure youth out, whatever. Now I'm like, what did you teach on yesterday? What are you guys doing? Why? Because my heart's in it now, right? Well, just do better than me. Prophetically care. Future care, right? So number one, our kids ministry needs a lot of aid and help right now. Second, our youth ministry. We used to have 5 kids on Sundays. Now we have 60. It's been amazing. And on all of once our kids are getting older, they do that every year. They were 8 a few years ago. Now they're 12. And so with all these 300 kids, they're going to be in youth here eventually. And I want to figure our youth ministry out before they get there so they walk into something built and thriving, not dilapidated, and they don't want to be there. Because our friends are 11, 12, and 14-year-olds. They need us right now more than ever. If you're not concerned about the future, just go stand outside of junior high and watch those kids walk out and tell me if you're concerned about what's going on in the world we live in. Those 12 and 14-year-olds, they need us right now. And so we greatly need to strengthen our next-gen ministries, our kids, our Rose kids, and our Rose youth. Second, we need to expand our building. We need to expand our building. This building, I'm pretty convinced. I don't know if I can say this, but I'm pretty convinced that in Acts chapter 2, where it says that the apostles met in the upper room, I think the offices were the upper room. That's how old this building is. Like, I'm convinced that, like, this is where Jesus went to preschool when he was a kid. And so, our building is old as God, man. Like, telling you, like, this year is 102 years of our building, and it's amazing, it's beautiful, but, like, it's falling apart, literally falling apart. Like, there's leaks downstairs in the ballroom, stuff is falling over, and duct tape isn't working anymore, and, there's leaks in places in the roof, and, I don't even know this, of course you wouldn't, but, like, the building, like, most of the building outside the stage has the original electrical. Yeah. It's like when we plug something in, something else goes off. It's like we'll be in meetings, so I'll plug my laptop in, somebody opens the door, unplug whatever you just plugged, and then the light comes on. Like, it's, our building's incredibly old, and we've spent a lot of money the last 5 years, but it's a very, very old building, and we need to do a lot more. If we're gonna stay here for 2 years, we need to expand what we're doing. I don't like that there's people in 3 overflows right now. I don't like you're watching on a TV. I don't like that you had to take the Max to Gleason, then a golf cart to Sandy, then an Uber here, and you had to walk up 6 hills, and we need to make church. I know like half of me loves how uncomfortable it is to get to church here because you have to mean it. You have to mean it if you want to come to church. I kind of like that. The other half of me is like, I don't like parents like walking 13 blocks in the pouring rain and can't park and you're circling for 30 minutes. That's not great. And so we need to do some things to make church more feasible here as long as we're here. Like, we're like making stuff up. We're just trying to do some stuff. Like, we're looking into extending the balcony like all the way up to here. Like, can we fit 250 more people up in the balcony? Can we put other chairs? Can we add that? Can we extend that? Can we build there? What will the city let us do? Like, we're unturning every rock that we can to expand our building, make church better, make our building more feasible, because we just have to expand our building. Number 3 is we need to develop ministries. Develop ministries. With those 3,000 people that call Rose home, with the 1,000 people that have joined over the last 12 months, and the 700 homes that have started coming, that's a big deal to me, by the way. It doesn't impress me either, by the way. 2.7 million people live in this metro. We have a lot of work to do. Let us not be fooled that a couple thousand people gathering is going to change an entire city. We have a lot of work, a lot of people, a lot of lives that we need to touch. But the other hand is, as I said, I really mean that. I have to stand before God and give an account for the people that we care for. And if you're new today, first time ever being here, man, I love you. You've been coming for a few weeks, man, we're so honored that you're here. But we care about you, your soul, your life, your marriage, your kids. That when you go through divorce, that we're there. When you lose a child, we're there. When you get the promotion, we're there. When you get the raise, we're there. When you get married, we're there. When you have your first kid, that we're there. We care about you. You're not an asset to me. You're a person to me. Some of you in this room make so much money. That means nothing to me. I care about you. I care about your life and your soul. Some of you bring in notoriety, you bring in whatever. Every one of you in this room bring in things. That's awesome. But you're not an asset to us. You're a soul to us. You're not a number in a system. You're a person that we greatly care about, and we need to do a better job, and we are. And I'll share more next week about all the things we have done. But we need to do a better job on caring for people. Pastoring, caring, meeting, praying, premarital counseling, marriage counseling, life issues, crisis care, like so much stuff that we need to get better at. And we have gotten way better at systems and things. We're helping way more people than we ever have before. But we have a lot more to do. We need to develop more ministries, develop more care for people. And all that being said, we'll end here. all of that's gonna take resource. All of it. I'm not gonna go back to those kids' rooms and prophesy new paint on the wall. That'd be super cool if I could though. Right? Like, it takes resource. Everything I just said takes resource. For sure it takes faith. For sure it takes plans. For sure it takes all that. But everything I just named and many more things we'll talk about over the next couple weeks in this month, it's gonna take resource. It's gonna take resource. So I want you to write this down and begin to pray about it. November 17th, we're gonna take a church-wide offering. Today's the 3rd, next week's the 10th, after that's the 17th. Please don't skip church that weekend. I think I'm on vacation in the coast. No, you're not, joker. You're gonna be at church next weekend, all right? November 17th, we're all gonna be here. We're not gonna skip out. We're gonna give. Above and beyond our normal tithes and offerings, we're gonna give. We've done this 4 times now. Back in the Boss, when we moved to the VMAC, it was empty. So we had to buy like chairs and a stage, and I think we were like 6 months old. We had to take an offering then. That offering shifted our church. In the VMAC, we had to take an offering to buy this building, which, by the way, you are sitting in someone else's sacrifice. We had to raise money that was the second one, shifted our church. 2 years ago, we did this, and I'll share what we did if you weren't here next week about all that. 2 years ago, we took an offering to do similar stuff like this. That shifted our church. This is the 4th time in almost 7 years we've taken a specific offering for something, and every time, it's shifted our church. Why? Because hear me, our past does not unify us, our future does. I can make Boss jokes, but only so many of you get it. I can make VMAC jokes, only so many of you get it. Right? Like every one of us have a different level relationship with the history of Rose, but all of us have a relationship with its future, with Rose's future. So our past doesn't unify us, our future does. And I promise you, when we're all here on November 17th, we're all gonna be here, we're all gonna give, we're all gonna do it. I promise you, you're gonna feel something. I don't mean goosebumps, I don't mean like worldly things. I mean like a holy fear, a holy uniting happens when we do this. I can't explain it to you. Why? Because money does something. Money affects your heart, your mind, your mood, your emotions, relationships. Money affects a lot. And when we all in this room, and a couple thousand people that will be here next week, when we give, I'm telling you, something moves in the room. Why? Because God honors people that give. It's a fact. We'll talk about it next week. There's something that happens when you give. God honors people that give. And we're gonna give next November 17th. So please write it down, mark it. Second, I ask you to pray about it. I know everybody in this room, you're a single dad, your money works different than the business owner that owns a bunch of things. And you're older and retired and your kids are out and you have extra resource that you never had when you're 30, now you do at 65. Your money works way different as a retired person and you have all your resource and you just sold your business. Everyone in this room works. You're a barista. Like, bro, I'm in school. I'm negative money right now. I get it. I know everyone in this room, your money works very, very different. But all of our money works the same as well. Meaning, God's hand is in all of it. The barista is $10 a day, and the businessman's multiple million dollar business. It all works the same, really. It's all God's. And He's just saying all of it. And so we're going to talk about more of that in the next couple of weeks. But November 17th, we're going to be taking an offering. So I want you to pray about it. Pray about what God would have you do. If you need to go do some actual research of your finances and your world and what you have access to and what could you do. And if you're a spouse, you need your spouse to go pray about it. Go with the higher number. It's the wife every time, isn't it? Every time I'm like, Julie, should we give this? She's like, you have lack of faith. I'm like, our kids won't eat. Like, we have your parents. They can eat over there, So pray about it with your spouse, and come ready November 17th. For us to what? Strengthen our next gen ministries, expand this building and do church here in a better way, and to develop more ministries that we can serve and take care of more people. Why? Because I'm done. We're trying to build something that will last. Not 10 years, not 30 years, whoever I give this church to in 30-something years, whenever God tells me to. I hope in 200 years, your great-great-grandchildren sitting in some room, being fed by God and blessed by God and raising their children in church, because like my great-great-grandmother 150 years ago sat in a living room with 21 people and she made a decision, and now I'm being raised in church because my grandmother decided this was worth it. Like, I actually want to build something that lasts more than just my time, more than just our season. And this is what it takes to build a temple, to build a house, to build a church that God fills with his glory. It takes resources. Yes, it takes faith, for sure, but it takes resources as well. So that's what we're going to do. And we'll talk more next week. Once again, this is just kind of the intro, where we're going and what we're doing, once you get on the same page. And then over the next couple weeks, we're going to talk more about this next week, and the 17th and 24th. And so please, I know many of you do this, but can you be at church every weekend? I know life, I know kids, but once again, I think many of us can tell God, no, it's not time yet. It's time. You've been here for 2 years. It's time. You've been here for 9 months. It's time. Be at church every weekend. I know life and kids and travel and work, and I get it all. I have 3 kids. They squat in my home, and they don't help at all, and they get sick, and I get it. I got kids too, but would you just make a commitment? I will be at church every weekend during this month, because I don't want to miss what we're talking about. I don't want to miss the stories, miss what God's doing. So please, please, please be at church. Amen?